Hello everyone, it is time for the Chapter 13 update that everyone has been waiting for after, the absolute sadness fest that was Chapter 12. Chapter 13 will also be pretty fun. Anyways, there's a few things I want to talk about in this video, mostly not the banner units like usual. There's a few important things with the update and some other things like that. We will of course go over the banner units as well. However, this banner is kind of a dud as far as meta goes. I don't recommend even purchasing tickets for this banner if you care about your gems, right? This banner is basically a skip. Neither of the units are very good. The memoria is not good. And we have better banners coming up very shortly, so I do recommend skipping on this one. And let's just go over a few things. First up, we have this letter right here regarding the operation and management of Atelier Resleriana. They finally posted this on Global. This is basically just saying that the co-developers of the game, Akatsuki Games, which are basically in charge of like backend and server stuff and some sort of management, whatever, they've basically split from Koei Tecmo. So Akatsuki Games is not working on the project anymore. They're not working on Resleri. It's only Koei Tecmo. This doesn't really mean anything. As far as like, should you be worried about the future of the game, right? This has been a thing for a few months. Akatsuki actually left a while ago, and honestly, the game has probably been better in that time in some ways. Not really sure. It's hard to tell what the difference is, but it doesn't really mean anything bad. It just means they couldn't really work together anymore for various reasons. It caused difficulties in the development process, some friction and stuff. So they parted, mutually agreed on it, whatever, it's fine. It doesn't really mean anything. There's nothing to worry about, so that's whatever. And then we also have a new letters from the development team. This basically just talks about a few things that they will be adding very soon. Most notably is the Gem Daily Pass on the September 20th update, alongside an event dungeon. So this basically confirms we're getting Bride on the 20th, so they're accelerating updates again. Instead of 10 days, we'll have 7 days. And Bride on the 20th means that Heidi will be out and overlapping with the end of Bolt Tournament. So if you care about your Bolt Tournament score, you're planning on pulling Heidi, Heidi will be Biss. Like, she will be the best. So you will want her in your team, and there will be 3 days to implement her for your whatever strategy or whatever. So yeah, I figured they would do this. Just throw Heidi in alongside the end of the tournament so that people pull for her and redo their scores and whatever. It is what it is. On top of that, we have the Daily Pass. The Daily Pass is 800 yen on JP, so it's probably $5 US when it comes to global. For $5 US, you get the same value in paid gems as you would if you were to purchase paid gems, and then you get 100 free gems every day for 30 days. So very good value. Highly recommend. It's just really solid at any investment level of the game. Like $5 a month, usually fine unless you're full F2P. So very, very good update. They also announced that the summer event is coming, upcoming swimsuit themed event. We didn't know that this was coming in October based on the current event schedule, but they're announcing it early. We have the nice English, anyways, English logo for it. They're just talking about this summer next month. Prepare for it. It'll be pretty good. You'll need a lot of gems to get through it, most likely. And yeah, other than that, we have Chapter 13 with this chapter. A couple things I want to say about Chapter 13. One, if you care about the emblem for birds at all, 13-4, the 4th score battle, will be the most efficient farming for that emblem. That's something I'm dumping stamina into on JP right now. And there's a few recipes that really matter, specifically this Wheel of Fortune Tarot that they're announcing here. At the start of a wave, boost on critical rate by 100% for 1 turn. So basically, when you equip this weapon, the character you equip it on gets guaranteed crits at the start of the battle. I'm not going to go over the recipes in full because I would need to go unlock them, but basically this is really good for sweeper teams if you don't have a crit support, and I highly recommend looking into this item if you don't have like Snow Rona or characters like that, so it's pretty good. We also get a lot of tickets, which is nice. We have the daily login bonus for tickets for the banner, but they also gave us Sasuke assignments for another 10 tickets, so 20 tickets for the banner, so even though it's a skip banner, you still get to pull on it a little bit, which is pretty nice. But yeah, let's just go ahead and go over the banner now. First up, we're going to go over the new features. Technically, the focus feature was implemented with this paid-only banner for the Bolt tournament, but this is the first banner that most people are going to care about focus on. And basically you click this button, featured units, you have to pick one. And it will give you a rate up on the unit you pick. I am just gonna pick Linka. Honestly, it doesn't matter which of these two units you pick. It doesn't matter at all. I'm picking Linka because of Fire Curse, basically, not because of the actual unit, and I kind of just like Linka more than Yuna. It really doesn't matter which one you pick. And what happens when you pick it is that unit gets a 1% rate, and the other units, everything else in the pool, gets split between the last 0.5%. So that is the unit that you will be getting more often. So pretty cool. Focus feature is nice, just lets you pick what you want more. Very helpful, especially for banners like the upcoming Bard banner with Heidi. If you want Heidi, you get higher rate on her, so that's very good. But yeah, let's just go over the banner. The memoria, I've said this before, this one's not good. It requires getting hit by attacks to boost skill damage, and because it caps out, it can't scale with damage buffet. It does have a higher base value to compensate, but you need it at rank 5, it has to ramp over getting hit 4 times, and you really generally don't want your attacker getting hit. This is made for Yuna in the banner, who is an attacker that does like getting hit, but she's not really a particularly strong attacker, and it's just kind of a weird gimmick, like she'll still die. So, not a very good memoria. Linka is a fire breaker, so we are finally getting a new fire character. She is okay. She's not straight up bad, but she is just okay. In general though, characters that do damage, characters that hit with their attacks kind of need to be really strong to survive in a meta where Claudia exists, because they will eat Claudia's debuffs, and that's not a good thing. Claudia is so dang broken, Onsen Claudia, so like, it's hard for breakers to survive when she's around, but we'll go over her a little bit. First up, her leader skill boosts all allies' burn resistance by 100% and boosts skill damage by 50% when their attack target is burning. So this is an interesting leader skill because it is generic. It doesn't require any specific tags. It just applies to everyone, but it's only 50% skill damage. You can basically ignore burn resistance. Out of all the ailments, burn is usually the least deadly, so it's the one you least care about resistance to most of the time. And the condition of the attack target burning, while Linka will help you meet that condition, if an enemy is immune, there's nothing you can do about it, right? So it's not a terrible leader skill, it's not a good one either. And her gift of, she does have magic stun damage boost, which is decent, except you're not really making breaker gear anymore. But Fire Curse is very good for the upcoming Awakened Resna meta. However, she doesn't actually link to anyone important and has the same colors as Vio, so like, it doesn't really matter that much if you pull her for Fire Curse, right? But yeah, rest of her kit, passives, skill damage and stun damage of all fire allies by 10%. Fire is not really particularly prevalent in the meta at the moment, so this is not really particularly good at the moment. And also it's only 10%. 10% just isn't quite enough, but at least she boosts her stun damage by a little bit, right? Her own stun damage. And then her other passive is when stunning the target, very high chance to inflict them with burn. This basically does nothing at all, because burn basically does nothing at all. It's 1% damage per stack when the target takes a turn. Like, you're not really burning enemies out, so it's kind of whatever. Her skill 1, once again, is more burn stuff, reducing the burn resistance of the target by 100% for 2 turns. This does mean that with this debuff applied from the skill 1, you're guaranteed to burn the target if they do not have immunity, I believe. After attacking, she also gets a little bit of stun damage to help out with her stunning. Her skill 2, single target, breaker skill, single target stun. Before attacking, reduces fire resistance by 25% for 2 turns, for 2 attacks. Pretty standard breaker kit nowadays to reduce resistance and create that weakness. And when stunned, she gives a magic attack received debuff for 2 attacks, so pretty standard 30% there. But it does require stunning the target, and it is single target, so it's not as strong as someone like Academy Ryza in that regard, right? It's not unconditionally applying this debuff, so it's pretty weak overall. Things are a little too hard to stun nowadays for it to be super impactful. Then the burst, it is a single target burst, which means you will often stun something with it, because even though things are hard to stun, usually bursts can kind of manage if they're single target. It does have the fire resistance reduction for 3 attacks, which isn't bad, and when the target is stunned, the ally with the highest magic attack gets 50% magic attack for 1 turn. So it's a pretty good burst overall if you're still, for some reason, using like Ryza, like base Ryza. It's pretty decent for her, or for Wilbell. Like, Linka's not bad, but she's not good either, and the burst is kind of the best part of her kit. It's very decent, it's just like, she's not good enough, and the meta isn't geared towards fire enough for Linka to really have a specific place in it, so as a unit, she doesn't really stand out. Fire does become more prevalent later with Awakened Resna, but we have even better units, and Linka is basically completely edged out of that team as well. For the reasons mentioned before, she doesn't quite do enough. She requires stunning, which is a little hard, and she does damage, so she eats Claudia debuffs. So, yeah. Overall, she's fine, but she doesn't have a place, and she's not good. And next up we have Yuna. Yuna is a strike attacker, and of course every strike attacker gets to be compared to Roseval, and that comparison is not particularly flattering for her. Straight up, she's not that great. She's very gimmicky as well. Usually gimmicky kits are not that strong in this game, but especially this hybrid like attacker defender kind of gimmicky kit ends up being not super great. Which that comes from her passive. At the start of battle, grants self Midnight Sun's Guard for 2 protections. When Midnight Sun's Guard is gained, gains the following bonuses: protection, 40% less damage taken, and 40% skill damage. So she will cover, she will guard for the first 2 hits, and she takes less damage and has some skill damage. Honestly, she does end up being decently tanky for an attacker. It's just taking multiple hits in a row without having any way to heal it back can still be very deadly despite the massive amount of damage reduction. And overall, she doesn't actually have a particularly high amount of damage to make up for just not having an actual defender, right? So it's kind of weird. When she's hit by an attack, it kind of synergizes. She gets a little bit of physical attack. I would like to see this be a higher value. This amount of scaling is not that impactful. But yeah, she's a little bit of a weird character. And when this buff falls off, she does end up being fairly vulnerable, but it is kind of nice in that it's like a pseudo taunt, where she will take a couple hits, and if you have an actual defender, they'll take a couple hits. As far as that buff, it is at the start of battle from the passive, but she can get it in other ways. If she defeats a target with her skill 2 and does not have the buff, she will gain the buff for 1 attack. If she already has the buff, she will get an extra protection on the buff. So, but it does require her defeating a target, and it is a single target attack with a fairly bad damage rate, only 290%. Damage rate is pretty dang important, so this is a pretty weak attack. Her burst is also single target. It does have a normal damage rate. It has a little bit of damage when attacking weakness, and it gives her 2 uses of the buff before attacking. So this one doesn't require defeating a target. Hopefully you're defeating a target with this anyways, though. But yeah, basically your entire kit is around this passive buff, and it just ends up not really being super worth it. overall. She's just not strong enough as a damage dealer for the current meta of the game, so. But she's kind of fun to play with, at least. Like, she is unique, and I do appreciate that design. I just wish she had a bit more damage baked in, and maybe some self-healing. But she's interesting, that's what I can say about her. And as far as her leader skill goes, it's 75% skill damage against weakness for knight characters. Very strong leader skill, but yeah, knight characters are not really that much of a thing. It's a good leader skill for herself if you're trying to use her as your sole attacker. One thing I will say about her is that the current dungeon, the Chapter 13 dungeon, is quite hard, and it is sort of made with Yuna in mind. It's made to make her quite strong in it. So if you do pull Yuna, it will make that one of those dungeons much easier. And then her gifts aren't really worth talking about. But yeah, that's basically it for the banner. Overall, skip this banner. It's not particularly worth it. And because I'm not buying tickets here, we don't have any pulls today, so yep, it is what it is. That'll be it for this video. I hope you all enjoy the new chapter. I know I will. The dungeons are pretty hard. You might not enjoy those, but I'll see what I can do about a dungeon guide. No promises, because the dungeon is quite difficult. I might be able to come up with something, but we'll see. Anyways, see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.